with all of you. What the world really needs is more aloha, wouldn't you say? You heard that beautiful song by Nako and his team singing about the power and the spirit of aloha. It's more than just a word that means hello and goodbye. Aloha, in the deepest sense of the word, represents love. It represents respect, compassion. That when I aloha you, it means I'm coming to you with an open heart, recognizing that we are all connected. Regardless of the color of our skin, where we may come from, an accent we may carry, spiritual path we may choose, that we are all brothers and sisters. This is the essence of aloha, and that is the spirit that we're gathered here today. That's the spirit that I have found in this campaign and in this great person that we are all supporting to be our next President of the United States. So you can't say aloha without smiling, you know? Special thing. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the veterans we have gathered here who are supporting Senator Sanders. Thank them for their service and sacrifice. These are people who have given so much and who understand firsthand the appreciation of peace because they've seen war firsthand. During my first deployment to Iraq, I served in a medical unit where every single day I was confronted with that immeasurably high human cost of war. I know how critical it is that we have a commander-in-chief who has the sound judgment, who has the foresight to know when maybe sometimes military power is necessary to defeat those who threaten the safety and security of the American people. Groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. But just as importantly, someone who has that good judgment and strength and courage to make the decision when not to use military power. Bernie Sanders has that. He has that intelligence and foresight and good judgment, that military mindset where he's thinking clearly through the consequences of these military actions before those actions are taken, not after. That judgment to make that most important decision of choosing war or peace. That's why I'm supporting Bernie Sanders, to be our next commander-in-chief, to be our president. It's because Bernie has made it clear time and time again that he will stop wasting our precious resources on these interventionist wars of regime change and the ensuing nation building that occurs after these wars. Instead, he'll use those precious resources to nation build right here at home. He'll use those resources to rebuild our infrastructure, to invest in education, to preserve social security, to keep our water and air clean. He'll use those resources to make sure that we keep American jobs here at home, to fight against those destructive trade deals that benefit multinational corporations literally on the backs of the American people who lose their jobs by the thousands. This is what's at stake in this election. And each and every one of you here has a clear choice before you. In Hawaii, we made our choice, resoundingly and overwhelmingly for Senator Bernie Sanders. So now it's your time to make sure that your voices are heard all across this country. There are major differences that exist between Secretary Clinton and Senator Sanders. Hillary voted for the Iraq War. She led the overthrow of Gaddafi in Libya, which resulted in a failed state, complete chaos and tremendous loss of life, and a strengthening of ISIS and Al-Qaeda there. And as we speak, she's continuing to push for an escalation of the counterproductive regime change war occurring in Syria by calling for a no-fly zone. I want to tell you a little bit about what this means, because it hasn't been talked about often enough. There's a reason why Senator Sanders, President Obama, leaders in the Pentagon all oppose this no-fly zone in Syria. It's because they recognize that it will cost billions of dollars to implement. It will take tens, if not hundreds of thousands of ground troops to enforce, what to speak of the massive U.S. air presence. And they recognize that the first action you take in a no-fly zone are bombs that must be dropped on Russian and Syrian anti-aircraft defense systems. This would launch the United States into a direct and violent conflict with the other nuclear power in the world, Russia. We've lost far too many lives in these counterproductive interventionist wars. Wars that have undermined our national security. Wars that have strengthened groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda who continue their terror around the world. The trillions of dollars that we've spent on these wars have made it so we do not have the adequate resources we need to rebuild our communities right here at home. We can't afford to do both. This is why it's so important that we need to stand up and let our voices be heard. We've got to make sure that leaders in this country know that we're paying attention and that we stand against these interventionist wars. We need to let the world know that we will not support overthrowing any dictator that we want. We will not support the United States acting as the world's police, as though it's somehow our role to use military force to reshape the world in any way that we choose. Bernie is a leader who's made it clear that he will end these unnecessary interventionist wars and will use those resources here at home. He will begin to lead us down this path towards peace and prosperity. The whole country is watching you right now. All eyes are on California. I spent some time earlier today with Blair and Zoe and a group of other volunteers who spent their day knocking on doors. A lot of them are not here tonight because they are committed and dedicated to making sure that every single voter turns out to vote for Bernie on Tuesday. And that's what we need you to do. There's a lot of misinformation being put out there. There are a lot of questions that people have. The bottom line is people need to turn out and cast their votes on Tuesday. People need to hear and understand and know the power that exists in each and every one of your voices. The power to proclaim to the rest of the country the kind of new leadership we seek to have for our future. So I ask you to stand with me. Let your voices be heard on Tuesday. Stand with Bernie Sanders as we move to make sure that he becomes our next president and commander-in-chief. I want to introduce you to someone really special now who you're going to hear from. Someone who has been, Bernie's coming soon. Someone who has been a clear, strong champion for the people, for the voiceless, and for those most in need. Someone who has been a champion for Bernie. Please welcome Dr. Cornel West.
Are you ready to make history in California? I'm talking about my brother who exemplifies integrity, unbelievable courage. And people know if the election were held at this vote, my dear brother Bernie would win a landslide. That's the future to believe in. We got a message for our dear brother Bill Clinton, who said we'll be toast on Tuesday. What is he talking about? Too much arrogance, too much vindictiveness. Let's tell the world in California what we will do on Tuesday. Because given all the things said about the Bernie Sanders campaign, we are still a love train. And justice is what love looks like in public. Just like tenderness is what love feels like in private. And we're here, we're all colors, all sexual orientations, all cultures, all identities, black, white, red, yellow, all the different but we're here because we have a commitment to truth, truth, truth. And the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. We don't care what color or culture you come from. That's what we're here for. Thank God for the artists. They are the vanguard of the species. They keep the love train alive. Give it up for the artists. And then there is the special one. Our dear brother Bernie Sanders, he's not an isolated icon. He's a courageous, visionary leader who we are with him, alongside him. We going up swinging, we going down swinging. We got a cause that's bigger than any election. We're going to stick together. We're going to fight together through Philadelphia and thereafter. Not a Machiavellian game of bourgeois politics. This is a moral and spiritual cause that has to do with poor people, working people, children, the elderly, across the board. That's what makes this particular moment unprecedented. Bernie Sanders stands in the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, and Edward Said, and Dorothy Day, and Cesar Chavez. So many of our indigenous brothers and sisters who had the courage to straighten their backs up and tell the truth. This is not just about this particular instance. This is a moral and spiritual awakening to revive American democracy. And I can't wait to introduce, present to you, my dear brother. He comes from the greatest borough in the world called Brooklyn. Comes from a very rich, prophetic Jewish culture that says, Hesed, spread love and kindness to the orphan and the widow, the fatherless and the motherless, the oppressed, the working peoples, not out of a hatred for the rich, but a hatred of greed, a hatred of avarice, a hatred of arrogance, a hatred of haughtiness. That's what the Bernie Sanders campaign is all about. That's why we are here in this beautiful, magnificent space in San Diego. Just look around. Do you feel the love here? Do you feel the struggle for justice here? Do you feel the vision for the future here? And I want to present to you, my dear brother, Bernie Sanders!
Levy, my son Dave, my daughter Karina, my granddaughter Ella, my grandson Dylan. Okay, guys, thank you. Thank you all. What a wonderful turnout, and I appreciate you being here very, very much. All right, guys, are we ready to make a political revolution? I want to thank a long list of folks who have been up here before me. I want to thank Josh Fox. I want to thank Joel Raphael, Kendrick Sampson, Sophia Cameron, Michael Chavez Ibarra, Michael Mogley and the Altruists, Shailene Woodley, Narco and Medicine for the People. I want to thank Congressman Tulsi Gabbard, one of the great members of the Congress. And I want to thank a very long time friend of mine, a man who is the social conscience of the United States of America, great writer, Dr. Cornel West. Let me talk a little bit about politics. That is why we're here, after all, aren't we? May as well talk about it. You know, when we began this campaign a little over a year ago, people thought that it would go nowhere. That was the expertise and the experts. It turns out that they were wrong. It turns out that the establishment did not quite appreciate how much anger and frustration there was in this country at establishment politics and establishment economics. Turns out that the establishment was not really aware that the American people want real change. And so after a year, taking on the financial establishment, taking on the corporate establishment, taking on the entire Democratic Party establishment, taking on a corporate media which is not much inclined to talk about the real issues impacting working people, taking on all of that, looks like we have now won 20 states all over the country. And it looks like we have done something together. It's not me, it's all of us, really extraordinary. And that is, this is what we have done. That is primary after primary, caucus after caucus, poll after poll shows that we are winning the overwhelming support of people under 45 years of age. You know, I just read some numbers that we have 70% of young Latinos under 30. And we're winning young whites and young blacks and young Asian Americans. And that is, why is that important? It is important because the message that we have been fighting for during this entire campaign is a message of social justice, of economic justice, of racial justice, of environmental justice. And that message is now in the hearts and souls of the overwhelming majority of younger people in this country, which means Our message is the future of America. All over this country, young people by the millions are standing up and saying, we are tired of a broken criminal justice system. We are tired of leaving school $50,000 in debt. We are tired of perhaps being the first generation in modern American history to have a lower standard of living than our parents. And the young people and many others are standing up and saying loudly and clearly, enough is enough! Now, let me give you some comforting news. Donald Trump is not going to become president of the United States. Donald Trump will not become president because in every national poll and in virtually every state poll, we beat him, and we beat him badly. There was a poll that just came out a few days ago here in California. I think we were 25 points ahead of him. And the point that I hope the Democratic establishment understands is that if we are deadly serious, as we must be, in making sure that a disaster like Trump never becomes president, we are the strongest campaign to defeat him. And the reason that we will defeat him is not just where the polls are today. Polls go up and down. The reason we will beat him is because of you. Any objective analyst of the current campaign understands that the energy and the grassroots activism in this campaign is with us, not Hillary Clinton. And what that means is when you have energy and when you have grassroots activism and when you have millions of people who are prepared to stand up and fight back, that translates into high voter turnouts in November. Republicans win elections when people are demoralized, when they give up, and when they don't vote. Progressives and Democrats win elections when people are energized and are prepared to fight back, and that is what we are. So if the Democratic leadership wants a campaign that will not only retain the White House, but regain the Senate and win governor's chairs all across this country, we are that campaign. And furthermore, Trump will not become president because in the year 2016, the American people will not accept a bigoted president. You know, just think about the history of our country and the tortured path that we have pursued trying to overcome racism and discrimination and bigotry. We are not going back. We will not accept a candidate who insults Mexicans and Latinos, insults Muslims, who it seems every day is insulting women, who insults veterans, who insults African Americans. And I do not want anyone to forget that just a few years ago, before Trump was a candidate for president, he was one of the leaders of the so-called birther movement. You remember that movement? What the birther movement was an extremely ugly and vicious effort to undermine the legitimacy of the first African-American president in our history. That's what that was about. You know, you can disagree with Barack Obama any day you want. That's democracy. But you do not have the right to undermine his legitimacy to be president of the United States. And the American people are not going to be voting for a Trump who wants to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.2%. They're not going to vote for a candidate who does not want to raise the starvation minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. And we are surely not going to vote for a candidate who does not believe that California has a drought. This campaign is going to win because we are thinking big, not small. Because we have a vision of where this country can go. And we know that when we stand together, black and white and Latino and Asian American and Native Americans, when we come together as one people, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. This campaign has a number of serious differences with Secretary Clinton.
Hell yeah.
This campaign is extraordinarily proud that we are the only presidential campaign not to have a super PAC. From day one, we have made it clear we do not want the money of Wall Street or the drug companies or the billionaire class. We don't represent their interests. We don't want their money. But what we have done in an unprecedented way is to run this campaign by receiving 8 million individual campaign contributions, more than any candidate in the history of the United States of America. Anyone know the average contribution? That's right, $27. Now, what that has shown the whole world is that you can run a winning national campaign without being dependent on corporate America or Wall Street. Now, Secretary Clinton has taken a different approach. She has not one super PAC, but many, and has received millions of dollars from Wall Street. My view is we have got to take on Wall Street, not take their money. Secretary Clinton says, well, you know, maybe we should raise the minimum wage to $12 an hour. No, when millions of workers are working longer hours for low wages, we're going to raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. At a time when thousands of households in California cannot turn on their taps and get drinkable water, it seems clear to me that we have got to end fracking. That is not Secretary Clinton's view. In fact, when she was Secretary of State, she pushed the fracking technology in many countries around the world. This campaign is going to win because we are doing something unusual in American politics. We are telling the truth. And what the truth is that today we have a corrupt campaign finance system which is undermining American democracy. Now, the media doesn't talk about it, but I want all of you to understand and never accept the right of billionaires to buy elections. Every day we hear the absurdities. It's not only Wall Street money going to the Clinton campaign, it is people like Sheldon Adelson of Nevada. I mean, this is how insane it is. This guy is a multi-billionaire. He is contributing to Donald Trump, who's only worth $3 or $4 billion. That is not American democracy. You know what that is? That is oligarchy. You know, oligarchy is the concept of a small number of people controlling the economy and the political life of a nation. Guess what? That is exactly what is happening in America today, and we are not going to accept that. But it is not only a corrupt campaign finance system, it is a rigged economy. A rigged economy is when today the top 1/10 now owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. A rigged economy is when the 20 wealthiest people in this country own more wealth than the bottom half of America, 150 million people. A rigged economy is when the fossil fuel industry makes huge campaign contributions, and lo and behold, Donald Trump and the other Republicans, they don't believe in climate change. A rigged economy is when the drug companies have 1,000 lobbyists in Washington, D.C., and we end up paying the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. A rigged economy is when Wall Street's greed and recklessness and illegal behavior drove this country into the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, and then Congress bails them out. And a rigged economy is when none of the executives on Wall Street, despite their illegal behavior, go to jail. have got to create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. Because we will not accept the reality of today, where mama's out working 40 hours a week, dad is out working 40 hours a week, the kids are out working, and yet 58% of all new income created today goes to the top 1%. Not acceptable. We are going to change that. But it is not just the corrupt campaign finance system that we're going to change. It is not only a rigged economy that we're going to change. It is a broken criminal justice system. Think about the absurdity that in this great country we have more people in jail than any other country on earth. We are spending $80 billion a year to lock up 2.2 million Americans, disproportionately African American, Latino, and Native Americans. Today, in inner cities throughout this country and in rural communities, youth unemployment is 30, 40, 50%. And when kids have no jobs and they're not in school, bad things can happen. And that is why together we are going to invest in our young people in jobs and education. Not in jails and incarceration. Here in California and all over this country, we have been building jail after jail after jail. It's time to build school after school after school. I want our young people to be working at good jobs, not rotting in jail cells. This campaign is listening to women. And women are telling me they're tired of working for 79 cents on the dollar. They want the whole damn dollar. And I know that every man here will stand with the women in the fight for pay equity. And by the way, women and men are tired of listening about Republican family values. Because we know what those so-called values really are. And what they are is telling every woman in California and America that she does not have the right to control her own body. We disagree. And what Republican family values are about are telling our gay brothers and sisters they cannot get married. We disagree. This campaign is listening to the veterans of this country. And I want to thank all of the veterans here and in this country for putting their lives on the line to defend us. Under a Sanders administration, veterans will not be sleeping out on the street. Veterans will get the quality health care they need in a timely manner, and the other benefits that they have earned. This campaign is listening to young people. And here is a moment when we have to think outside of the box. Don't accept the options that the media gives to you or the Congress gives to you. Think about this for a second. Everybody here knows, this is no disagreement about this, that we are living in a highly competitive global economy. Is that right? All right. The logical corollary of that is that we need to have the best educated workforce in the world if we're going to have a strong economic future, right? And if we're going to have the best educated workforce in the world, it is insane that hundreds of thousands of bright and qualified young people do not go to college because their families lack the money. In the year 2016, when we think about free public education, it's not good enough now just to be thinking about first grade through 12th grade. That was great 40 years ago. Today, people need more education. Technology has changed the world. The economy is changing. And if people are going to be prepared to get the jobs of the future, they need more education. It's as simple as all of that. And that is why I believe that we should be making public colleges and universities tuition free. Does anybody here honestly think that that is a radical idea? No! It really is not. How much does it cost to go to college in Germany today? Nothing! How much does it cost to go to college in Scandinavia? No. Well, I think there is a lesson to be learned from those countries who are smart enough to invest in their young people and in the future of their countries. That's a lesson we should learn. How many people here are dealing with student debt? I have talked to people all over this country. Just talked to a young man today. $300,000 in debt for the crime. Here is his crime. He went to medical school. Talked to a woman in Iowa. We have a dental crisis in this country. We desperately need more dentists. She went to dental school. She graduated $400,000 in debt. If you think outside of the box for a half a second, you realize how insane it is to be punishing people with years of debt because they did the right thing and they went out and got an education. So for student debt, you got millions of people stuck with 5, 6, 8% interest rates. My view is we allow people with student debt to refinance those loans at the lowest interest rates they can find. Now, I have been criticized every day. You know, people say, you know, Bernie is giving out free stuff. He's going to make public colleges and universities tuition free. He's going to lower student debt. Hey, Bernie, how are you going to pay for that? I will tell you with great joy how we're going to pay for that. We are going to pay for it by understanding that in the last 25 years, there has been a massive transfer of wealth in this country. You all know that? The problem is that that transfer has gone in the wrong direction. Trillions of dollars have gone from the hands of working people to the top 1/10 of 1%. So I think it is kind of time to transfer some of that money back into the hands of the middle class. 8 years ago, after Wall Street's greed and recklessness and illegal behavior, let me underline that, illegal behavior, nearly destroyed our economy, these powerful rulers of the world, these guys, the CEOs of Wall Street, they went crawling to Congress and they said, bail us out. And Congress had enough money to bail them out. Well, today Wall Street's doing just fine. And I think that we should impose a tax on Wall Street speculation, which will more than pay for free tuition at public colleges and lowering student debt. Now, Wall Street doesn't like that idea. But our message to Wall Street is that the days when you get it all are finished. This campaign is listening to our Latino brothers and sisters. And they remind us that every day there are 11 million undocumented people in this country, many of whom are living in the shadows and are living in fear. In this country today, and right here in California, you have many thousands of undocumented workers who are being ruthlessly exploited on the job. They are underpaid and overworked, but they cannot stand up for their rights because they have no legal protection. And that is why I believe we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform and a path towards citizenship. And that is why I believe we must end the current deportation policies. Our job is to unite families, not divide families. And if Congress does not do its job and pass immigration reform, I will use the executive powers of the presidency to do what I can. This campaign is talking and listening to the African American community. And they are asking me how we can spend trillions of dollars on a war in Iraq we never should have gotten into. A war that I vigorously opposed. But think about it. Trillions of dollars for a war which has done us and that region incalculable harm. But the African American community asked me, how come we don't have the money to rebuild inner cities in America? And they're right. And that is why we're going to change our national priorities. Instead of rebuilding communities in Afghanistan, we're going to rebuild them here in the United States.